Hi, this is nurse practitioner and attorney Joe Flores, reminding you to join us not only on TV, but right here on the internet. And one of the most important things that we cover is personal injury. Personal injury can affect you in many ways. Not only when you get up in the morning and you stretch your back, you're injured. You may have problems walking, and you also may have problems with your memory. Call us if you have been in an accident.
Welcome to South Texas Now, featuring attorney Joe A. Flores from the Flores Law Firm. He grew up right here in the Coastal Bend and became a physician's assistant, fell in love with the law, and became a lawyer. Each broadcast of South Texas Now brings you unique interviews with some of the voices that make a difference right here in South Texas. Now please enjoy this episode of South Texas Now. Welcome to South Texas Now, featuring attorney Joe A. Flores from the Flores Law Firm. Each broadcast of South Texas Now brings you unique interviews with some of the voices that make a difference right here in South Texas. Now please enjoy this episode of South Texas Now.
And welcome to another edition of South Texas Now. This is attorney and nurse practitioner Joe Flores. And not only are we bringing this here locally in South Texas, but we're also broadcasting on YouTube. Usually I have a guest on, but today I wanted to try something a little bit different. A lot of the time people ask me, Joe, well, what kind of law do you practice? Or better yet, they'll say, what kind of lawyer are you? And I always tell them, a darn good one, I hope. We do a little bit of everything here. We do a little bit of civil, we do criminal representation of those that have been accused falsely, we believe that have been unjustly treated by the system. Also federal law, which is something that's really tough. We're very, very much into saying stop mass incarceration now. Ever since the war on drugs, which I believe is pretty much unwinnable, and I don't think people want to win it, and I'll tell you why I say that, is because it would put a lot of people out of jobs. And really, the way things are going worldwide, our war perhaps has been somewhat effective here in the United States. But the distribution of things like ecstasy, manufactured pills, and cocaine, and things of that nature have switched over from being distributed from South America to West Africa, which is the stopping point, down to Europe. Europe now is surpassing us as the population that is using drugs more. And so we have decreased somewhat the amount of drugs, but it's been usurped by different drugs. Now fentanyl and things like that are being placed into the market. Maybe if we're lucky, we have a great law enforcement agencies here in the U.S., but still, 1 out of 10 loads might get caught, but the rest go through. And we're talking everywhere from South Texas to Duluth, from LA to New York. Those distributions are happening. So we talk about kind of what we handle. We also are very proud to represent first responders. We are very proud to represent nurses and physicians on their licenses, also individuals that may have been caught up in a scheme that was beyond their control, that they were committing healthcare fraud within a facility. They didn't know about it, but they didn't whistleblow either, so they've become a part of the conspiracy. So we look at that as well. The other issues that we look at involve DEA. And right now we've got a crisis with prescription drugs. We also have a crisis not only with billing veterans and the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, but also even private insurance. Say you go in for a cold or something and maybe they are what's called upcoding. They're billing your insurance more and adding more tests on. So these are some of the areas that we cover. But one of the ones that it really ties in everything, because some of you may know that I'm a nurse practitioner and a lawyer, and have been so for a quarter century, together combined, that I see people all the time, in their home, do house calls. We also see people in the nursing home and long-term care, but also the injured. And that is what I'd like to focus in on today, is one aspect of what we handle is working with those that have had fatal accidents, that have had very serious car accidents that have really damaged them or left them dead. And in their wake, those people that grieve, that live on, they also have what's called bystander damages. They suffer every day that they don't have that person. Some people live, but the quality of their life has changed. And often when we're young, when the weather changes, I don't need good old Dale Nelson, our local weatherman, to tell me, because I can feel it in my bones as I get older. And we really, when we're younger, we don't really sympathize as much with people's pain, their suffering, their anguish. But I think now with COVID, I think a lot of us have seen what it does, not only in our body, but also in our mind. People sometimes have lost hope or they feel down, and I say, chin up, let's keep going, let's keep working together. But again, I want to cover something that's very important, and that is the anatomy of a trucking accident. When we're looking at legal issues, every show we want to kind of focus in on either something that involves the law, criminal, civil, or administrative. So that's what this program is about. If we start looking at that, there was a great trial about a decade or more ago, and I'll use that. Names have been withheld to protect people's privacy and a lot of the details. But looking at how someone that represents a person in a trucking accident, it's very important, because I think a lot of people watch Law and Order, a lot of people see a lot of Criminal Intent and all those types of shows, but never really see what goes on in a trial that involves trucking an accident or a major accident, car accident. And that's what we're going to look at. So, I always say to people, when I'm helping out in a trial, worked with some great attorneys, trained with some of the best. And I'm not saying I'm one of the best or anything like that, but what I do bring to the table is I help the attorneys see what the damages model is and how much they can ask a jury for. It's not easy asking for money, especially from a jury, because a jury may, somebody on a jury may say, I got in a car accident and no one gave me $1, and I live in pain every day. The other person didn't have insurance. I had to have my own insurance pay for it. I live in pain, and they may see it that way. But usually when something goes to trial, it's because something failed. And what I mean by that is that the case didn't settle because either one side is overvaluing the case and saying this case is worth way too much money, or the other side is undervaluing it and saying, now wait a minute, this person may have had a head injury, but she looks fine to us, and our neurologist on our side is saying that she's fine. Often we get experts on cases that involve head injuries or spinal cord injuries to show exactly what's going on. And we also get very talented people that are cinematographers, videographers, to show a day in the life of somebody that has been really hurt and truly hurt, that affects even their very most intimate activities of daily living, going to the bathroom, showering, shaving, brushing your teeth, getting out of your car, walking to the store, those things that have changed what you can do, the enjoyment of life. What kind of price do you put on that? So, I'm going to be showing you some slides and things, and that may help. So what we're looking at here is, I always tell everybody, when attorneys go in front of a jury, they'll say the evidence will show, or they give a peep show of what is going to happen. And often the people that are suing are called a plaintiff. They'll say the company just isn't showing responsibility. Say it's a trucking company. They'll say that the company failed to have its drivers properly trained. They may also say that they are not only just refusing to take responsibility, but a company of that size should have had a better safety program. The National Transportation Safety Board mandates that people have this type of training. And often, and I don't mean to pick, there's plenty of trucking companies that are excellent, but there are some that just don't keep with standards. So you'll tell people, why we're here. And we're using an example, and we'll talk about how the trucking industry and also the right to a trial by jury. You have a 5th, 6th, and 7th Amendment right, the right to remain silent. You have the right to competent counsel, and you have a right to trial by jury on any amount in controversy over $20. The Founding Fathers said that years ago, and it still holds true today. And then we give that snapshot. Why were the people negligent in the case? Why was that trucker negligent? If we're looking at it from the plaintiff's side, and vice versa if you're looking at it from the defense side. Often we show a 30,000-foot view of, or a helicopter view or a drone view of where the accident happened in order to better explain. A picture's worth 1,000 words. And we've got about a minute before we take a break. But I just want you to look over some of these pictures of the people, and these are real people. These are real accidents that have occurred. And also, often there are eyewitnesses that will come out and testify, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking about independent eyewitnesses and what they see in a trucking accident and how we use that in trial when we come back. Hi, this is attorney and nurse practitioner Joe Flores, and I want to talk about something very serious, domestic violence. Whether you've been accused falsely of domestic violence or you're a victim of domestic violence, call our office, 361-887-8670. There are those individuals that want to help you. Remember, 361-887-8670. Let's stop the violence. And what we're doing here today, we're back, and you're watching South Texas Now. This is attorney and nurse practitioner Joe Flores. I like to bring areas where the law and medicine overlap. Today we're talking about a trucking case, and we're looking at a case study. Often people see the whodunits, the crime, the wonderful shows like Law and Order created by Dick Wolf and Special Victims Unit and all that. But you don't see, and it kind of sounds dry, a car accident, a fender bender, if you will. Many times, people have been conditioned to minimize what can happen during a car accident, and they're told, oh, it was just a fender bender, or because there's not a lot of damage to the car, that somebody didn't get hurt. Well, when a 3,500-pound vehicle hits another vehicle, maybe the fenders or the bumpers are very heavy duty, and maybe the trucks weigh more than that, a couple of tons. There may not be a lot of property damage. It's like a carton of eggs. You look at it, looks totally intact, and everything, but you open it up and all the eggs are broken, Those could be the passengers. I kind of liken that to the passengers within a car. They could have broken bones. They could have brain damage. They could suffer neurological injury. So often, very highly specialized people will, like I said, use drones now where you can take pictures over where it happened. Investigators, those that do the type of investigations that people look at, accident reconstructionists that go back in time and can scientifically and beyond the preponderance of evidence, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but they can say what happened to the plaintiff's vehicle, and we can re-show that there a little bit. This is an actual accident that we're looking at where pictures were taken and the car was just beyond recognition. And then we looked at the defendant's vehicle, and you see it's a truck and it looks like it doesn't even have a scratch. And so some people will say, well, the other car or the other vehicle or truck did not even have a scratch, so it can't be that bad. And I say to those people that, yes, it can. Not only have I taken care of people on a Saturday night in the ICU when I was a younger man, but I also represent those people that are injured, whether through malpractice, whether through negligence in a nursing home, or if they had a trucking accident or if they had a car accident. Often people will hit their head or have their brain jarred. It's called coup contre coup, kind of a French term where your head is like a bowling ball. It's thick, it's hard, the skull, but you have jelly in there, that's the brain. It has nowhere to go other than shake about. And often you have a slow bleed in the brain. We've had recently a celebrity fell, hit his head, and went to bed, but he had a slow bleed and passed away. Not to get too graphic with people, but those injuries do happen. So when you do have a car accident or you do have a trucking accident, it's important to start documenting things, especially if you are cognizant of what's going on. You take pictures. If you have a passenger that is able to do that, sometimes you don't have time to do that and you are seriously injured. We've had people halo flighted, taken to a burn unit because of that. And these are real people. And I've seen them firsthand as an RN when I worked as an RN before I became a nurse practitioner. And that's what I did, was a lot of trauma. And people would end up in the ICU. Some of them never to walk again. Some of them never to be able to have the same short-term memory, or their emotions changed. Often with brain injuries, you don't see it on the outside, but people that live with them say they're not the same person anymore. And that's where specialists come in. We have to show an accident reconstructionist does what he does best first, or she does best, what happened at the scene. And we tell the accident. And then, if we're lucky, we have independent eyewitnesses that have no skin in the game, that actually don't have the economic interest in, say, I'm going to get some of the money of a settlement. I think that most people, when they're injured, money's the last thing on their mind. And you're going to say, well, Joe, you're full of malarkey. But seriously, I've seen people that come in neck boards that are immobile, they're terrified, they can't feel their toes, their hands are numb, they've lost consciousness, or perhaps they're in a coma and their family is hysterical. Lawyers and money are the last things on their mind. They would give anything to have the person that they love back the way they were. Unfortunately, in the courtroom system, we can't do that. The most we can do is ask for money. And many people say, well, what good is money worth, Joe? And I'll say, with these types of accidents, it can be a life changer. It can have a caretaker take care of that person while the spouse goes to work. It's exhausting. And my hat goes off to not only those paid professionals that take care of people, but the unpaid, those caretakers that take care of mom and take care of dad and take care of their child, those people that have suffered from terrible accidents like the one that you're seeing, the images on your screen. Photos taken by an eyewitness can make the difference. And there are witnesses that will make the difference. And when you're talking, say I'm the one that's bringing the lawsuit, I will tell a jury that it's only argument, but I have to prove up my case. I'm the one with the burden. But I'll say, you're going to hear the defendants attack both of our independent witnesses that say that an accident happened and it was the trucker's fault. Again, we talk about responsibility. That's a huge theme. When you're dealing with multi-million-dollar corporations and you're dealing with companies, you often want to have the jury understand that those people have to be held accountable. Whether it's the government, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a pharmaceutical company that addicted people to pills, those people need to be held accountable. Now, I'm going to say this. Approval rating of bankers, politicians, and lawyers, 15%. Doctors, nurses, policemen, firefighters, 70% plus. And that's like a Rand Morgan sort of, poll. And it's well-deserved sometimes. Very well-deserved. I mean, often people say, well, the lawyers are just after money and to get their chunk of it. And I strongly believe that we can't put somebody back the way they were, but we can try to compensate them with money. So back to that question, what good is money worth? Money can help with a nurse's aide at home, an RN to come visit the patient, doctor's visits, pain medication, medication to help a person rest. And when you're trying to prove up a case like this, you also have to have safety experts, people that say they should have known better. They should have done this. And we can't go back in time. So we put on those people, and we also put on professional drivers. Often lawyers that are a lot richer than I am, but that I help out on these types of cases and that I analyze them and look at where medical and the law meet in the middle of the road. We'll bring on professional drivers and even reenact an accident. Seriously. Manufacturers sometimes put out defective tires. We've seen large trucking and automobile companies put out products that may flip and cause passenger vans. Some of the best attorneys in the United States come from this neck of the woods, and I've had the pleasure of playing cards with them on a Friday night and also helping them out on cases. And so when I'm looking at that, and we're looking at this PowerPoint on your screen, experts explain, what you should do and you shouldn't do, like safety experts. Many of us don't know at yield signs, what do we do? How slow do we have to be? How much do we slow down? At a yield sign, is it just kind of like a rolling stop, or do we keep going? I mean, these are questions that have to be answered by experts. But all experts will agree, like in the case that we're looking at right now, that a yield sign is red. And red means, hey, something needs to stop or slow down very much. And that means caution. That means warning. And so we not only look at that, but we also look at the law on that. We bring out what the safety code is. But also in cases involving death, in tragedies that occur every day across this land, we have to bring in the policeman. And we have to bring in, say, the trooper that was there. And we have to read their reports. Those reports are most important. What people say at the scene at the time. Often people will say in a moderate to mild accident, they're hurt, they're sore, I don't want an ambulance, because maybe they don't have insurance. They don't go to a doctor for 5-6 days, maybe because the lack of insurance, maybe because of COVID, maybe because of barriers to care. And often, and I'll tell you, I've worked both sides as a defense attorney and as a plaintiff attorney. The lawyer is the person that is best fit to send somebody to a doctor, and through a letter of protection, that means, doc, I promise to pay the bills for this injured person that doesn't have insurance. And we can't use the I word in court, and I repeat that. It's against the law to tell a jury there's insurance, because maybe a jury might be tainted by that. The insurance companies have really pushed lobbyists and lawmakers to make it pretty much illegal, mistrial, to mention insurance. So a lot of people will say, well, why didn't they just use their insurance? And they'll even ask that during jury selection. Can't talk about it, We sometimes have to approach the judge and say, what do we say, judge? And the judge instructs them, well, we can't discuss that. That is not relevant here. Of course, people on a jury are going, well, sounds very relevant to me. But if you look at some of the things that we do, we look at the bones, the skeleton, and how seriously injured somebody was. And we review those. We hear about the credible evidence. We look at not only how things physically affect someone, but look at the brain. Experts agreeing on what is traumatic brain injury. Experts that agree on what changes behavior. What sort of psychiatric developments, which are a stigma, let's face it, and the lifetime and long-term effects of pain management, surgeries, and sometimes we have to show x-rays of the hands, the feet, the neck, and you're looking at all these images. The bottom line is that we're also looking at pain medication and what things are going to cost. Medical bills, millions of dollars down the road, and future damages. We've got half a minute left, but I'll tell you, it's hard to ask people on a jury for money. But I don't have any shame in doing it, because those people I saw in the emergency room, in the ICU when I was younger, I saw death. I saw the devastation of what can happen. So we've got less than 30 seconds left, but I want to thank everybody for just tuning in. And each week we're going to have a different case study, and we'll look at those, whether it be civil, criminal, administrative, federal. We'll take a look. Thank you all, and God bless.
You've been watching South Texas Now, featuring Joe A. Flores from the Flores Law Firm. For questions and comments, please call 361-887-8670 or visit floreslawfirm.com.